It was a beautiful morning in New York City. The golden sunlight spilled across the skyline, illuminating the towering steel and glass structures that defined the city inside one of those towers. Trump Tower. Everything was still. The only sound in the lavish penthouse suite was the gentle clinking of a silver spoon against fine china as Donald Trump stirred his morning coffee. He liked this part of the day. The world outside could wait. The politics, the media, the endless stream of noise. For now was simply enjoyed the quiet, savoring the rich, expensive blend that only a man of his stature could appreciate. Then his phone buzzed. Trump sighed, setting down his cup. The moment of peace was over. He glanced at the screen, and before he even answered, he could tell something was wrong. His assistant's number flashing at this hour usually meant trouble. Came the urgent voice on the other end. "Have you seen the news?" Trump landed back in his chair, unfazed. "What news?" "Another fake polls leapy. Joe, forgot what year it is again." A hesitant pause. "It's Whoopi Goldberg, sir. She just went after you on The View again." Now that got this attention. His brow Aroadashes wiped open his phone. A headline blared across the screen in bold letters. "Whoopi Goldberg blasts Trump on live TV. He's a sore loser who can't handle the truth." Trump tapped the video. The familiar set of The View appeared around, to hosts sitting in their usual seats, and the rest. She was Whoopi Goldberg leaning forward, eyes blazing, her finger stabbing the air as she launched into an impassioned tirade. "Donald Trump is nothing but a sore loser," she declared, her voice dripping with contempt. "He's afraid of real media, afraid of real journalism. He hides behind his little echo chamber, crying about how everyone's against him. Boo-hoo. But guess what, Donnie? You can't run from us." The audience erupted in laughter and applause. Trump's grip tightened on his phone. He could hear the smug satisfaction in her voice, the confidence, the self-righteousness. She thought that she was untouchable. A loud clatter echoed through the room as she slammed his coffee upon the desk, liquid splashing on the polished wood. His assistant on the other end of the line, his eyes burned with a dangerous intensity. "All right, Whoopi," he muttered. "Why? I want to wire you got ton." The moment those words left his mouth, Trump was already in motion. He barked an order for his legal team to assemble. He wanted every lawyer, every strategist in his office. Immediately, minutes later, the conference room inside Trump Tower was buzzing with activity. Papers were spread across the long mahogany table. Thick legal documents stacked in neat piles at the front of the rooms. To none of his lawyers, a non-nonsense man with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, he cleared his throat. "Miss Trump, if I want to take Goldberg down, we have toast. Her own history against her has lit a thick file across the tables. She's reckless. She's said things before that have nearly gotten her fired, nearly gotten." The View shut down. Trump flipped open the file, his eyes scanning the list of controversies. The Holocaust comment. He remembered that one Whoopi Goldberg had made a stunningly tone-deaf statement claiming that the Holocaust wasn't about race. The backlash had been immediate. Jewish organizations condemned her. ABC was forced to suspend her. And yet she was still talking. Trump's coughed. She got a feezy. He turned the page. Meghan Markle. Goldberg had mocked Markle's struggles with mental health and racism, implying she was exaggerating for sympathy. Markle had furious, even considering legal action against The View. Next, Elon Musk. Trump chuckled at this one. Whoopi had attacked Huskanair, calling him greedy, saying he used his wealth for power games instead of good. Musk had fired back instantly, calling The View a cesspool of hypocrisy. Trump grinned. "They should give Elon a call. He'd love this." Meghan McCain. Trump's mood darkened slightly at this one. He remembered when Meghan, the daughter of his former rival John McCain, had tried to hold her own on The View. Whoopi had humiliated her, cutting her off mid-sentence. "Girl, please." Stop talking. The clip had gone viral, and Meghan had later described The View as a toxic work environment. And counter that had been a disaster. Whoopi had nearly lost control when the conservative commentator appeared on the show. The argument had gotten so heated that the network had to cut her. Kate Goslin. Trump actually laughed at this one. The reality TV star had gone on The View to talk about her divorce, but Whoopi had grilled her so aggressively, so relentlessly, that Goslin had looked like she was about to burst into tears, and the watermelon drank Trump's hookish head when co-host Raven Simadiris's joke about people with get names. Whoopi had laughed along. No apology, no consequences. She closed the ER with a snap. This woman uttered, "Gets away with everything." He looked up at this legal team that ends now. One of his lawyers cleared his throat. "Sir, we've already drawn up potential lawsuits. We can hit The View with at least 30 cases of defamation slander. Leo, we can argue that they've been pushing falsehoods for years. Unchecked." Trump smirked. "Good, I want every news network talking about this. I want advert. Is they're pulling out of their show. I want them to panic." He grabbed his phone, and while we're at it, let's give them a little preview with a single tap open Twitter, and began typing Whoopi Goldberg is Aliaranda, disgrace to television. She thinks she can say whatever she wants with no consequences. Wrong. Lawsuit incoming. Let's see if she's still laughing after this. The tweet hit the internet like an earthquake within minutes. It was trending worldwide. News anchors read it out loud in real time. Social media went into a frenzy and headlines exploded across every major outlet. But back at ABC Studios in her dressing room, Whoopi Goldberg hadn't seen it. She was sipping her tea, getting ready for another day on set, completely unaware that Donald Trump had just declared war on her. Whoopi Goldberg had always been fearless. She had battled Hollywood executives, conservative politicians, and even a wrath of social media, but for the first time in a long time, she was facing an opponent who did not forgive and certainly did not back down. Donald Trump was coming for her inside the ABC studios. The atmosphere was electric. The halls buzzed with frantic producers and executives whispering in panic tones. The tension was palpable. Viewed in her private dressing room, Whoopi was completely unfazed. She leaned back in her chair, scrolling through the latest the headlines on her phone. Trump declares war on Whoopi, lawsuit incoming. She chuckled. This wasn't the first time someone had tried to shut her down. It wouldn't be the last. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Whoopi, a junior producer, peeked inside, looking nervous. They want you in the executive office right now. Whoopi sighed dramatically, placing her phone down. Let me guess, she said, standing up. They want Medi-Cal. Down. The producer didn't answer, but the guilt was all over his face. Whoopi shook her head with his mirco. Honey, she muttered, they should know by now. I don't do calm. She stepped out of her dressing room and headed straight for the war room. The ABC executive boardroom was usually for calculated decisions, strategic planning, and well-rehearsed crisis management, but today it was pure chaos. Network executives sat around a long glass table, stacks of papers in front of them, half-drunk cups of coffee littering the room like war casualties. Some were furiously pinch-mails, others were whispering into their phones, trying to contain the firestorm that Whoopi had unleashed when she walked in. Every eye turned to her. The CEO of ABC, a sharp-dressed woman in her mid-50s, exhaled heavily and folded her hands together. Whoopi, she said, forcing a tight smile. When needed to talk, Whoopi sat down, making herself comfortable. Let me guess, Trump's little temper tantrumism making advertisers nervous. She grinned. Bingo, the CEO sighed. Look, you know how this works. We cannot afford to lose the sponsors over this. Whoopi leaned back. Nurture, you impressed? Let me get this straight. Trump calls me or threatens a lawsuit, and I'm the one who has to shut up. An executive cleared his throat. It's not about shutting up, Whoopi. It's about a spare mesh, a cut in his A1 thing, and suddenly I'm the problem. Have you people been paying attention to what he's been saying for the past 7 years? The CEO's face hardened. This is serious. He's not just ranting on Twitter. He's mobilizing his base. You saw what happened with Elon Musk, right? Whoopi frowned. What about him? The CEO slid a printed tweet across the table. It was from Elon Musk's official account. Donald Trump is right about one thing. Media hypocrisy is out of control. If The View keeps spreading falsehoods, they should be held accountable. Time to fight back. Truth matters. Whoopi stared at the words, Cherries narrowing. Elon Musk had just taken Trump's side. This was no longer just a media feud. This was about power. The meeting dragged on, but Whoopi had already made up her mind. The network wanted her to tone it down. Trump wanted her to break. Elon Musk wanted to crush her credibility. But Whoopi Goldberg had never backed down from a fight. She stormed out of the meeting, ignoring the concerned whispers behind her. If they wanted her quiet, she'd do the exact opposite the next morning. America was watching. The anticipation was unreal. The View was about to go live, and everyone, Trump supporters, Whoopi's fans, the entire media landscape was waiting to see what she'd say. As the intro music faded, Whoopi strode onto the stage. Like a general marching into battle, the audience erupted into applause. She took her seat, adjusted her glasses, and leaned forward. All right, folks, she said, let's talk about the big orange elephant in the room. The crowd went wild. Joy Behar clapped her hands together. Oh boy, Whoopi, you're really going to do this, huh? Whoopi grinned. Damn. Enright Amsha turned directly to the camera. So apparently, she said, Donald Trump thinks she can shut me up. He thinks I'm scared. He thinks I'm just going to roll over because he's throwing a tantrum. She let out a laugh. Well, let me tell you something, Donnie, you picked the wrong woman. Toombs with the audience erupted. She raised a hand signaling for them to settle down. But let's talk about the real issue here. This isn't just about meth. This is about free speech. This is about a man who wants to control what's said about him. And let's be honest, Trump has been in plenty of lawsuits before, but his one, she chuckled. This is just pathetic. The camera zoomed in, capturing the fire in here. Yes, so go ahead. Donnie Zoomy, I dare you. The studio exploded with applause. Meanwhile, inside Trump Tower, Donald Trump watched the broadcast, his expression cold, unreadable. He's this coffee down carefully, eyes narrowing. His assistant shifted nervously beside him. Sir Twitter eyes exploding. Loner stand with Whoopi is trending worldwide. Trump exhaled slowly. They love her. His assistant continued in Musk's tweet. Well, some people think it's a bad look for him to take your side. Trump finally turned to face her. Well, he said, voice calm but razor sharp. They won't be laughing when the lawsuit hits, and just like that, it grabbed his phone, his fingers moving swiftly over the screen. Minutes later, the internet erupted again as Trump's next tweet went, "Live Whoopi Goldberg is a fraud. The View is a disgrace. If she thinks she can slander me with no consequence, she's wrong. See you in court." Whoopi India exploded. The battle had officially begun and there was not turning back. Donald Trump was a man who thrived on conflict. He had spent decades battling the press, his political opponent, Sandiv and Hollywood elites, but this time things were different. Whoopi Goldberg had crossed the line inside Trump Tower. The atmosphere was electric, the golden glow of the office, the polished floors, the ever-present sense of control. Everything was just as it should be, except this time. Trump wasn't just playing defense, he was going on the attack. The air in the conference room was thick with anticipation. His legal team was gathered, their expressions serious, their briefcases filled with documents that could send the View into absolute chaos. As one of Trump's most ruthless attorneys, a man known for tearing apart media outlets in the courtroom, cleared his throat. "Sir, we're ready to file." Trump steepled his fingers, leaning back in his chair. "Good, I want this to hit them like an earthquake." Another lawyer nodded. 30 separated defamation lawsuits, one for each instance of Whoopi spreading false or damaging claims about you. Not to mention the lawsuit against ABC for allowing a program that consistently engages in reckless accusations. Trump smirked. "And you're sure we can make them believe?" The lawyer adjusted his tie. "Our this isn't just a lawsuit. Financial nightmare for them. Even if we don't win every case, the sheer cost of fighting this will be devastating for the View. We're talking millions in legal fees, damage to their credibility, and worst of all, advertisers pulling out." Trump's grin widened. "Now that's what I like to hearth." The lawyer hesitated for a moment. "There's just one more thing. We're hearing reports that ABC executives are panicking. If we push hard enough, Whoopi might be forced to step down." Trump raised an eyebrow. "She'd rather die than admit defeat." "That's exactly why this will be fun." Trump nodded. "All right, then fill the lawsuits, make it public. Let's see how tough Shirley is with that." The greatest legal war in television history officially began the moment Trump's legal strike was announced. The media exploded. Fox News: Donald Trump slaps Whoopi Goldberg with 30 lawsuits that View's future in jeopardy. CNN: Trump's latest attack on the press is Whoopi Goldberg, his biggest target yet. MSNBC: a war on free speech or a justified lawsuit. The battle between Trump and the View escalates. Every major news network, every political commentator, every online forum was on fire. Social media divided into two armies. Trump supporters cheered, "Finally someone is holding these media elites accountable. The View has been spreading garbage for years." Whoopi's defenders roared back, "This is nothing but a desperate attempt to silence a strong women who speak the truth." Conspiracy theories ran wild. Is this all a publicity stunt? What if Whoopi and Trump are actually in on this together? And in the middle of the chaos, ABC executives were panicking inside the corporate headquarters of ABC. The mood was beyond grim. The CEO slammed a folder down on the table, her face tight with stress. "We have 30 lawsuits against us. Half our advertisers are considering pulling out. And now even our legal department is telling us we should prepare for a settlement." The boardroom was silent. Meeting executive finally spoke up. "If Trump keeps this up, we could be looking at a long-term revenue drop. The View is one of our biggest properties, but this lawsuit is scaring sponsors away." A legal advisor cleared his throat. We might have to make a sacrifice." The room tensed. "You're saying?" The CEO trailed off. The legal advisor nodded. "We might need to let Whoopi go." The room erupted. Some agreed, others pushed back, but none could deny it. Trump's lawsuit wasn't just about money anymore. It was about power, and Whoopi Goldberg was the one paying the price. Back in her dressing room at ABC Studios, Whoopi stared at the headlines on her phone. She exhaled sharply, tossing the phone onto the tables. She knew this day would come. Her assistant stood nearby. He said, "Whoopi, what doubt?" As she stood up, rolling her shoulders like a fighter preparing for a match. "We fight," she said simply. The assistant looked nervous. "ABC is talking about letting you go." Whoopi laughed. "Oh, they can't, but I'm not leaving without a fight." Minutes later, the View was live, and America was watching. Whoopi stared into the camera, her expression serious. "All right, let's get to it," she said. "Donald Trump is shooing Met." The audience gasped. She smirked. "Big surprise, right? You know, I thought that was busy trying to be president again, but apparently he has time to try and shut me up." The crowd cheered. She leaned forward. "Well, guess what, Donnie," he said, her voice dripping with defiance. "You consume Melia one. I'm not going anywhere." The audience roared with applause. Trump was watching from Trump Tower, his phone in his hand, his expression unreadable. His assistant hesitated before speaking. "Sir, Whoopi isn't backing down." Trump took a slow sip of his coffee. "Good," he said, his voice calm. "It'll make watching her fall even more satisfying." And with that, he opened Twitter and fired off another shot. "Whoopi Goldberg thinks she's untouchable. Let's see how she feels after ABC drops her." The countdown begins. The moment the tweet, the internet, the war hit a whole new level. Now it wasn't just Trump and it was Trump and ABC, and knew how this would end. The war had reached its boiling point. What had started as just another round of Whoopi Goldberg attacking Donald Trump on The View had turned into the biggest media scandal in years. Trump had launched 30 lawsuits, ABC was on the verge of collapse, Whoopi had refused to back down, and now as the pressure reached an unbearable peak, the world was about to witness the final showdown. The morning air inside Trump Tower was calm but charged like the quiet before a storm. Donald Trump stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, gazing out at Manhattan. His reflection starred back at him from the glass, unreadable as his mind worked through the final stage of his plan, his phone's on the table behind him. Silent, waiting, his assistant entered cautiously holding a folders. The ABC executives are meeting today to decide Whoopi's fate. Trump didn't turn around, and the assistant swallowed. There's a 50-50 chance they'll fire her to protect the network. Now Trump turned, his eyes were sharp, calculating, not good enough. He grabbed his phone, typed a message, and hit send. Moments later, the world saw Trump's next move. ABC executives, if you don't drop Whoopi, expect to be named in the next round of lawsuits. Your move. The tweet exploded like a bomb across social media. ABC's boardroom was in chaos. The atmosphere inside ABC headquarters was pure panic. The network was losing sponsors by the hour. Lawyers were urging caution. Viewers were threatening boycotts from both sides. And now Trump had turned his seats on the executives themselves. The CEO of ABC, a woman who had seen dozens of scandals in her career, rubbed her temples in frustration. This is a disaster, she muttered. One of the legal advisors spoke up. We need to make a decision today. If we keep Whoopi, we risk more lawsuits, more lost advertisers, and more damage to our brand. But if we fire her, another executive interjected, will be seen as giving in to Trump, will alienate half our audience's silence. Every person in the room knew that whatever decision was made today would define the future of ABC. The CEO said, we need to hear from Whoopi. A producer nodded. She's already on her way. Whoopi Goldberg walked into ABC's boardroom like a soldier entering enemy territory. She had fought battles before, but this was different. She took a seat at the long table surrounded by corporate suits who were now deciding her fate. The CEO leaned forward, fingers interlaced. Whoopi, you know why we called you here? Whoopi exhaled, nodding. Because Trump is trying to scare you into firing me. Heavy silence. We're under Oros pressure. The CEO admitted. The lawsuits, the sponsors, it's all bad. So let me guess, Whoopi said, crossing her arms. You want me to apologize? You want me to sit on live TV and say Trump was right? The CEO hesitated. Whoopi leaned forward. Because let me be clear, I'm not doing that. Tension thickened in the air. Then what do you propose when come as an executive? Asked Whoopi, sat back staring at them. I propose we fight. Murmurs spread through the room. I propose we stop bowing to these billionaires who think they can control the media. I propose we expose Trump for what he's, a man who can't handle criticism. Mammon's so desperate to shut me up he's willing to destroy an entire network just to prove a point. The CEO frowned. That's risky. Will be smirked, so he's firing me. Silence. Then the CEO stood. Well, let you speak your mind, she said one last time. But if this backfires, Whoopi, you're on your own. Whoopi nodded. She had expected nothing less the next day. The View aired its most watched episode in history, Whoopi Goldberg's attack. They table here, expression calm but determined. Millions of people were watching. She took a deep breath and spoke directly to the camera. Let's talk about the lawsuit, she began. The audience was silent, hanging on to every word. Donald Trump thinks she can shut me up. He thinks that by throwing money at lawyers, by threatening ABC, by trying to turn public opinion against me, he can make me disappear. She shook her head. Well, guess what, Donnie? I'm still here. The crowd erupted in applause. I have spent years on this show speaking my mind. Sometimes people don't like it. Sometimes hey, love it. But there's the thing, that's what free speech is, and no man, especially not Donald Trump, is going to take that away from me. The audience was on its feet. Whoopi leaned in and lowering her voice for dramatic effects. Let me say this one last time. Zoometry to destroy me, but I will never ever apologize to you. The cheers were defending an inside Trump Tower. Donald Trump was watching, his murked big mistake. Whoopi in with it. Had picked up his phone a few seconds later. Twitter exploded. Whoopi Goldberg just committed career suicide. ABC will drop her soon. Watch and see. The aftermath was brutal. ABC lost millions in advertising. The lawsuits dragged on 4 months, but in the end, Whoopi stayed. ABC refused to fire her, choosing instead to ride out the storm. Trump, however, didn't lose either. His lawsuit forced ABC to settle behind closed doors, costing the network millions and sending a chilling message to the media. Attacking Trump had consequences. Whoopi Goldberg had survived, but she had never been the same since. And Trump, he had proven a point, one that would haunt The View forever. This wasn't just a lawsuit, it was a warning. In the end, neither side had truly won or lost. Whoopi had kept their job, but she had been wounded. Trump had forced a major settlement, but he hadn't been able to take her down completely. The media moved on, but something had changed. A new reality had set in. If you went after Donald Trump, you had better be ready for war. And as for Whoopi Goldberg, she would never forget how close she had come to losing. It all the battle was over, but the scars, they would last forever.